to Twisted Fairy Tales. This is your host, the Horror Queen.
Once, there was a young man named Jack who lived with his mother in a small home near the woods. Recently, they suffered from the loss of his beloved father. Although the father was a hard-working man, his death left Jack and his mother next to broke from the medical bills. Jack had to put in extra hours at the local grocery store, while his mother, who never worked before, was forced to get a job. Jack was able to put in a good word for her, and she began working there as well. Was not pleased about it, to say the least. However, for many days, they worked and saved their money, and it seemed to never be enough. One day, the mother found eviction papers taped to the front door and walked to her son's bedroom to wake him up. She called his name multiple times. She waited seconds, and when he didn't respond, she removed the pillow from under him and smacked him over the head with it, forcing him up.
Mom, what do you want? I'm trying to sleep.
She handed him the eviction letter. Then he hops out of bed and reads the letter thoroughly. They were in danger of losing their home, and his mother thought it was time to sell her late husband's car despite its sentimental value. Jack shook his head in agreement, for he knew that selling his dad's car was a hard but necessary choice. Luckily, there was a local mechanic who loved to buy and sell used cars, so his mother handed him the keys and he got dressed and headed down the road. The car was old, therefore it was not in the best shape. Halfway down the road, the car began to slow down until eventually coming to a complete stop. He tried to start the car back up, but to no avail. He then hissed the horn out of frustration and stepped out of the car. Without warning, a strange and frail older man with a cane walks over to him.
Hey, I see you're having some trouble there, son.
Yeah, I was going to sell my dad's car, but who's going to buy this now?
Well, maybe I can help you. How about a trade?
I'm about to lose my home and the car is busted. What exactly would I be trading?
Jack asked as he watched the man reach inside his pocket, then opens up the palm of his hand, and there sat a large green bean. Jack dismissed the old man's gesture and thought he must have been senile.
Goodbye, old man.
But the man stepped in front of Jack, stopping him in his tracks.
You mustn't turn your head at this bean, for this is a magic bean. It shall bring forth much abundance.
I don't know what you had for breakfast this morning, but maybe you need to lay off it.
I tell you what if I guess 3 true secrets about you? Could we then do a trade?
So you want to trade this shit car for a fucking bean?
He asked out of disbelief, but the old man insisted that the magic bean was in fact the real deal.
Plant the bean, and it shall unlock a world of opportunities. But after 6 days, the magic would disappear.
Jack thought about the proposition again, and after all, the man was a complete stranger. He couldn't possibly know anything about him, or his mom.
Okay, you're right about everything, and then we have a deal. So what do you got?
Without hesitation, the man looked deeply into Jack's eyes and spoke.
You love the color blue. It's your favorite. And you're very brave.
That's all you got? I'm still not convinced. Tell me something else, and I'll plant that bean myself.
Well, when your father passed away, you cried all night in your bed because you wished it was your mother instead.
There was a brief silence between the two for a few minutes.
Impossible,
Jack thought to himself, for he never shared his disgraceful secret with anyone. The man opened up the palm of his hand again, and Jack quickly took the bean and put it into his pocket. He thanked the stranger and was so excited he ran all the way home, leaving the man and the car in the distance. After making it home, he ran into his backyard, dug a hole, and planted the bean. His mother steps out of the house and stands beside him. He stands up to face her with a huge smile on his face. He went on to tell his mother everything that happened, and she became quite furious with her son. And although Jack felt bad about losing his dad's car, he felt it would be all worth it in the end. Unfortunately, his mom was very angry and kicked him out to sleep on the back porch until the morning. However, in the middle of the night, he heard his mother scream, and quickly opened his eyes, only to see that the bean he planted hours ago has fully matured. The bean was now an enormous beanstalk. As he began to examine the beanstalk, he finds a hidden door and accidentally falls through it. The door was a portal, and it transported Jack into another world that was beautiful and inviting. He explored the new world and discovered a castle as tall as the sky, with large doors and windows to match its stature. There were no people surrounding the castle, and so he had a peek inside the window. The furniture was oversized, which made Jack feel incredibly small, as if he shrunk somehow. It wasn't until after peeking into another window when he discovered a disfigured, grotesque giant man. Jack was shocked, and knowing that giants are actually real, he could see that the giant was eating what appeared to be his dinner, and the curiosity got the best of Jack. He snuck inside the castle, found the giant's dining room, then hid in the corner. With a clear side view of the giant, he was made aware of the faint screaming each time the giant raised his hand. Jack did not shrink. The giant was indeed a giant, and it was eating people alive. He could hear the screaming of each person as the giant bit off limbs and chews into their flesh until it was completely gone. Jack was mortified, and he gasped, slowly backs out of the room, disappearing from sight. Fortunately, he found a room that was unlocked, filled with many treasure chests. He opened one of them, and inside was stacks of gold coins. Jack was ecstatic, and he looked around, then lifted up the chest and cautiously carried it back through the portal. His mother was waiting patiently for him, and was equally thrilled when he showed her what he brought back. He told her all about the secret world with the people-eating giant, but she didn't believe him. She was only intrigued with the fruition of never working again. Their happiness was short-lived, as the two were greedy and within 3 days spent all of their money. That night, Jack goes back through the portal again, hoping that like last time, the giant would be preoccupied. The giant was in fact eating his usual meal, and Jack was able to steal another chest, planning to sustain the finances this time around. Once again, his mother was pleased, but just like before, she spent all of their money. She forces him to return for more, and once through the portal, he could see a young man a few feet away and decided to follow him. The young man turns around and immediately was alarmed when he noticed Jack. His fear turned to excitement once he realized Jack came from within the portal. Jack was confused, however, continued to engage in conversation with the young man. He learned that the giant is a king and has been terrorizing the people in that world for many decades. Whoever is brave enough to kill the giant takes his place as king, but no one has been successful. Meanwhile, the giant forces people to work, then steals their money and eats all who isn't useful, including children. Because of this, the people have all decided not to bear children. They desperately needed a hero, and the thought of him risking his life to become a king was exhilarating, yet nerve-wracking. The men concluded their chat. Jack proceeded to the castle, and again the giant was busy eating, and again Jack grabbed another chest, only this time instead of coins, it's filled with golden eggs, and he carries it through the portal. Somehow, it seems that the portal was significantly smaller than before. Neither Jack nor his mom was able to detect that with each passing day, the portal would shrink. He remembered that after 6 days, the magic would disappear like the man said, and that would mean that there would be only 1 day left before the portal closes for good. Jack went to sleep that night pondering many thoughts. In the morning, he wanted to speak to his mother, hoping for some sort of wisdom.
Mom, that giant is the king of their world, and if I can kill him, they'll make me king. What should I do?
Go kill him!
What if the giant kills me instead?
Well, at least you won't die penniless like your father. She walked away without a care for her son. Her words, although cruel, somehow gave him the closure he needed. Later that night, Jack asked his mother to accompany him to the castle. At first, she refused. However, he complained that there was a chest too heavy to carry alone, which finally convinced her. Together they went through the portal and quietly snuck inside the castle. Since Jack has explored the castle before, he not only knew the giant's routine, but where he slept. He sent his unaware mother to the giant's bedroom. Sitting on top of the bed was the giant's pet golden goose. The goose spots the mom and begins clucking loudly, which startles her to let out a loud scream. The giant opened his eyes and slowly got up from his bed. The mom was terrified and cried out to her son. Jack was hiding further down in the hallway and ignored her screams, but could see everything. With one hand, the giant grabs her and Jack watches with great excitement while the giant rips off her limbs one by one, dripping blood and flesh from his mouth until her screams are non-existent. Suddenly, the giant turns his sight onto Jack, then immediately began chasing him around the castle. Jack was fast, but the giant wasn't far behind, blocking every exit. The chase leads all the way to the top floor of the castle and into a room with many large windows. With nowhere left to go, the giant walks inside the room and shuts the massive door behind him.
Fee, fi, fo, fum, get ready, cause here I come!
Jack backs away, moving closer to the windows, and the giant gears himself up, then charges at him. At the last second, Jack moves out of the way, and the giant didn't have time to stop, and he ran right through the glass. He fell high from the top floor of the castle and landed on the ground, killing him instantly. A crowd of people soon formed as they celebrated the defeat of the giant. He ran back to the portal's entrance and smiled as he made it in just enough time to watch the portal close for good. Jack was free. He now can live a life of full prosperity, and why share it when he can have it all to himself? The people of that world were so grateful and proudly crowned Jack as their new king. He moved into the castle, and as they watched him take his place on the throne, they all shouted in unison,
Long live King Jack! Long live King Jack!
"Long live King Jack."
Ha 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 ha.